Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news as the Antony deal hots up. They can deny it all they like, the talks are ongoing, negotiations are happening and Manchester United are pushing. They're pushing hard for this Antony deal. We're even getting talk of what the price could be. So put a smile on your face. This is positivity with a capital P. So we will be talking about Antony. We'll also have a bit of a funny update coming in from Spain. I think Barcelona are obsessed about Koundé at the moment, so we're probably going to have to wait a month for anything to happen with Frankie Dion. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But look, let's fly into Antony and get off with this. We've always been, as I said, we've always been quite well informed on Antony with this deal, mainly from his side and his desire to come to United. And also Ten Hag really likes him and wants him at United. We spoke about him a bit this morning and saying that deal's not dead. I'd say I've dropped from 80% to 50-50 and I'm going to stay at 50-50 because I don't want to jinx this one. But look, we've got a good update from Alex Crook at TalkSport. Been really good with his transfer news this summer so far, and I think this really does offer up the most important thing. Adam, that's terrible. I mean, as if I'm going to read that. You very poor to spend a fiver on that, Adam. I'm sorry. It's one of the worst combination names trying to catch me out I've ever heard. So anyway, let's look at what Alex has said from TalkSport. I was under the impression last week that Antony would only be a target if Ronaldo was to leave the club. That may not be the case. I've had some information from a very reliable source that Manchester United are still very much looking to bring him in. This is really good, and I think Alex is absolutely spot on here. Thank you for joining the Members Club, Caleb. I've always said this. I've never understood this story that if we don't get Ronaldo, we go for Antony. I've heard Fabrizio talk about it. I've heard a few people talk about it. Obviously, even Alex thought that was the case as well. I've never understood that because I've always known that Ten Hag wanted Antony. And I've always known that Antony wanted to come to Manchester United. Well, I say always. I've known it since birth. I've known it since sort of late May. So I never understood when we started getting these stories when Ronaldo was putting his transfer request in that United would go for Antony if Ronaldo left. Because I was like, hold on a minute. So we're going to go for Antony if Ronaldo left. But we wanted Antony back in the middle of May. And he's been wanting to come to United since then. The truth of the matter is that Antony was always a target for Manchester United. And if you go back to late May, Timber was the centre-back target. I think we just missed out on Darwin Núñez. De Jong was still the midfield target. Antony was the winger target. Fullbacks, as we know. And Ronaldo was very much expected to be staying at the club then. So that's the situation. When Ten Hag's summer is basically this. Ten Hag walks in, he wins the title with Ajax, high five. He walks into Manchester United. He sits down with Richard Arnold and John Murtough. They share a can of Sprite and they talk about the transfers. And basically what was said is, the players I want to go, Eric Bailly, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Phil Jones, blah-de-blah. No Ronaldo discussion. He was meant to be staying. No Harry Maguire sale or Rashford or Bruno. None of that. They were always part of the plan, as was Ronaldo. I want De Jong for the midfield. I want Antony as another winger because we're short there. I want a centre-back, which was Timber at that time and became Lisandro Martinez. I wouldn't mind another striker, to be fair, because I don't know about Martial, and I would like a left-back and a right-back. So Antony has always been on the page as a signing for Manchester United, regardless of the Ronaldo situation. Will, thank you very much for becoming a member. What do you think of Cash and Ahmad or Palestri for Antony? We'll talk about that in a minute, Oliver, and welcome to Members Club Tomasi. So this is a really encouraging update, because, I know Alex, I do shows with him on TalkSport on the Transfer Hub on a Sunday night. I also know TalkSport's sources have been very good this summer. Look, admittedly, I've spoken to their producers about it. You know, TalkSport having good transfer sources is surprising for a lot of people, but I think people who follow transfers know this summer they've been fantastic and they've really put the work in. And when Alex says from a very reliable source that Manchester United are looking to bring him in regardless of the Ronaldo situation, I think that's going to be very good information. And it also means that we're negotiating with Ajax now. Now, does that mean that we're going for Antony because we're not going to get De Jong? Look, we might get Antony and not get De Jong because I don't think we've got a backup for De Jong. But De Jong is number one priority. We're negotiating for Antony because we want Antony. And I keep saying this to people. We've got no left-footed winger. This is so difficult for Ten Hag to work with. We've got no left-footed winger. And don't tell me we've got Ahmad because he's not ready. Alanga's right-footed, Rashford's right-footed, Sancho's right-footed, Eriksen's right-footed, Bruno's right-footed. Every combination you can think of on the wing, they're all right-footed. He needs a left-footed player and he also needs another winger. So he really wants Antony. And This is also what Alex Crook said. There has been reports that Manchester United's interest in Antony was over, but United are still very much looking to bring him into the Premier League. A 70 million, 60 million pounds fee has been reported. I think it'll be a little less than that. Well, I will say this right here, right now, and I don't know who agrees with me on this. I would happily pay Ajax 60 million for Antony. If they can get that price down, fine. But I would happily pay 60 million for Antony. Considering we've just spent, what? I know it's add-ons, but it's around 55 million for Lisandro Martinez. I think 60 million for Antony is a good deal. Now, if we can do add-ons and it comes up to 60 million, even better. If we can chuck Ethan Laird in and bring that down, even better. But the fact that that price is being spoken about around that fee, I think there's a deal to be done there. And I think we can negotiate that deal. And I'll tell you this for free. There is absolutely no way in my mind that they are going to get 60 million next summer. They're just not going to get it. So I think Ajax have always known. And the funny thing is, I think Ajax deep down, this was the player they wanted to sell this summer. I think Antony was the player they were ready to cash in on for various reasons. And I think they also know that he's at the peak of his powers. So I know he's only 22 and he could have a really good season, but would they get 60 million next year if Ajax aren't as successful as Ten Hag's team and they're not as hip? You know, I think now is the time. And they also know that the player wants to go as well. So this is a really good development. This is, put a smile on your face. This is good. I'm not moving off 50% on this. If anybody asks, I'm still 50-50. Very much Ajax stance is they're not going to sell Antony, but these negotiations are taking place. And I think in this instance, there is a deal to be done. I think it all comes down to United. I said this morning. Ten Hag wants him. Antony wants to come. There's a reasonable deal that can be done there. But will United get it done? And again, like everything in this transfer window, it falls on the shoulders of John Murtagh and Richard Arnold. And if we get him, they've done what Ten Hag wants and the player wants. And if we don't get him, they've failed Ten Hag again. So let's wait and see what happens. Hi Mark, do you think instead of getting De Jong, we should go for Lucas Paqueta? The guy is defensive and a great playmaker, says Fimble. Well, look, we can all think of alternatives, mate, but we've got to go and get we've got to go and get what Eric Ten Hag wants. There's alternatives to Antony. There was alternatives to Lisandro Martinez, but I really am a firm believer that you get the manager what he wants. Forward options of Ronaldo, Rashford, Sancho, Martial and Antony would have a lovely balance. Thoughts on Lautaro Martinez to replace Ronaldo next year, says James. I don't know, but I do agree with you with that, James. I think, at the moment, our options are Martial, Sancho, Rashford, Elanga. If we keep Ronaldo and we add Antony and Elanga, you've got 6. I'd be very happy with that 6. You've got Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best players in the world. You've got Rashford, Sancho, Antony, 3 very different, but, very exciting wingers. You've got Martial who can play in the wing and can play up front. And then you've got Elanga, the young player. That is what we want. We need 6. 2 for each position. Rashford can play left, right and up front at a push. Ronaldo obviously is the striker. Antony can play left and right. Sancho can play left and right. Elanga can play left and a bit of right. And then Martial can play up front and off the left. So we'd have a really good balance to go into a very long season. And this is why Ten Hag wants Antony and was planning to keep Ronaldo. Hi Mark, can you wish my son Ryan a happy 11th birthday? Long-time viewer, keep up the good work, says Amit. Happy birthday to Ryan. Hope you have a good day, mate. Hi Mark, any truth in Laird plus cash for Antony? I saw some rumours on Neymar, says Mikael Rach. Steer clear of Neymar. Even Pep's steering clear of Neymar, so I don't think Manchester United should be going anywhere near Neymar. It's not really what we're looking to do. We're trying to build a team here, and I don't think Neymar's a good idea. But 60 million plus Maguire, says Dinky. There is a deal to be done. I think Ajax really like Ethan Laird, and I think Ethan Laird would be a good player for Ajax, and I think it would be good for his career. This is a deal that could really work out well. Ajax get money for a player that they know is probably at the peak of his price. They also get a good right back, which is what they need. I think it's a deal that helps everybody out. And also, remember, Ajax are being linked to a lot of players. They've bought Bassi in from Rangers, which I think is a fantastic signing. He's been brilliant for Rangers. He can slot into that position where Lisandro Martinez has left. They've bought Bergwijn in. They've been linked to a Porto player, I think. They're being linked to, obviously, Brobby's going to sign for them. They're being linked to Memphis Depay. So Ajax are spending well as well, and they're building a new team. And I think this is something that's just sticking with Antony for a minute. This is another reason to cash in on Antony. This is a rebuild at Ajax. It's a new manager. It's more than half a new team. Do you need to keep Antony there when you're going to build a new team? Does he need to be there for another new team? I think now is the time to cash in on Antony. And I've always felt, out of all their players, this was the one that they were going to cash in on. So, and he's perfect for what we need. He's exactly what Erik ten Hag wants. So, yeah, I think this deal can be done. I'm not going to go higher than 50-50 because, you know, so much of this comes down to negotiations and so much of this comes down to budget. And when you're in the hands of the Glazers or Richard Arnold or John Murtaugh or whatever you want to call it, ultimately we're in the hands of the Glazers. I don't get ultra confident, but the fact that we're negotiating is good. Do you think that Erik ten Hag wants these players because they know his system and wants to help them to implement them, says Slow Sports News? I think Erik ten Hag wants them because, and let's just remember as well, there is also a very good point to be made here. Gravenberch's gone to Bayern Munich. Their right back has gone to Bayern Munich. Like, Antony is probably a player that Liverpool are interested in and maybe Bayern Munich would look at if they didn't need to. That Ajax team has got a lot of good players in it and they played some really good football. A lot of European teams were looking at that Ajax side. So I think it's a little bit dismissive and condescending when you say, well, he's just buying players from the Eredivisie. It's not like nobody else is looking at these players. Darwin Núñez was from the Portuguese league and Liverpool have paid 80 million euros for him. So these are players that are well known in the European scouting system. And look, Ten Hag's got an advantage because he's actually coached them and created them. But we're not... There is a pedigree to Lisandro Martinez. There is a pedigree to Antony. And that's the only two... People talk like we're raiding Ajax. We've signed one player. And if we get Antony, it's two. So I think that's fine. If we bought 3 or 4, I'd be a little bit concerned. Since first being linked to Antony, I've went back and watched lots of Antony and his quality. Very positive player, says Shane. Look, I like Antony. He's very, very quick. He does like to shoot from distance. You know, there are Rashford tendencies there. But he's also got a wicked cross on him. And he is creative. And I think that is something that, you know, I think Rashford could learn a lot from Antony, and Antony could learn bits from Rashford. So there's this, and Sancho, of course. Serious question this time. What are your thoughts on Memphis Depay for 20 million? He is a free agent next summer, says Adam. Look, I think Memphis Depay is a good player, Adam, but I'd have to put my hands up. And I've always said this about every signing we do this summer. I will critique it because I don't think we can just sit there as a United fan base now and pretend everything's rosy in the garden. I just don't agree with that. I don't agree that you can just go, last season's forgotten, let's get behind everybody. If you want to do that, that's fine, but we don't have to all do what, you know, no, until somebody publishes the super fan book on how to be a fan by such and such, you know, everyone's got their own entitlement to decide what they want. And last season scarred me a lot, and a lot of fans are scarred by it. And I'm not just going to forgive and forget just because it's pre-season and we've got a new manager. The manager gets a clean slate. The new signings get a clean slate. 3 or 4 players get a clean slate. Everyone else has got to bloody work hard. And I think that, you know, Memphis Depay, what people say, well, what's that got to do with Memphis? Well, Memphis is a bit like last season. Memphis had a period of time at United. It didn't go well. And if he comes to United, he doesn't come like Malacia or Antony or Eriksen with a completely clean slate. He comes with the baggage of that bad period at United. And that's what I mean. Like, you'd think you're going to give him a clean slate. You think you're going to say, oh, forget the past. But it only takes... He'd have to hit the ground running and be superb. Because if he was average or, God forbid, worse, it would suddenly be, this is why you don't bring players back. So I mean, you could argue that when does it ever work when you bring a player back? I mean, one player I remember bringing back, and it was many years ago and I was very, very young, was Mark Hughes. Like, we brought Mark Hughes back and that worked. But Ronaldo has worked coming back, but he is one of the world's best players. And even that, some people would say it hasn't worked because they think it's his fault that the midfield got dominated and the defence can't mark. So I just don't think Memphis Depay is worth bringing back. I think there's too much baggage there. I mean, it could work, but my feeling is I wouldn't do it. I've got some United Stand merch for my birthday. Cheers for everything you do, says Louis. Thanks, Louis. Thank you very much for that. And would Antony signing encourage Ronaldo to stay, says Shane. I think you make a really good point, Shane, because if you're Cristiano Ronaldo, you've had the last few weeks off, you've said that the club's got no ambition. In the last 3 weeks, they bought Eriksen on a free transfer and a centre-back. How does that help Cristiano Ronaldo? I still think if we'd brought De Jong and Antony in, there'd be more chance of Ronaldo looking at this and going, look, especially in the way that we've played in pre-season. I do think Ronaldo would have looked how we've played in pre-season, especially yesterday, and go, look, there's more chances for me to score here. But I still think he will also be very intelligent to know that the depth of that midfield is not sufficient. The depth of the attack is not sufficient. And whilst pre-season's been very positive, a couple of bad results and that confidence could slip again. So I do think these sort of signings will enhance our chances of keeping Ronaldo. Antony and Sancho, very creative wingers, would perfectly balance the goal-scoring focus of Ronaldo. Our attack would also be much more symmetrical, says Luke. Yeah, and also look at the way we attacked yesterday. You know, Delo has got a good cross on him. Malassia has got a good cross on him. These players were very high up yesterday. So there's a lot in that team for Ronaldo, but that's something different. I think, you know, the breaking news is this, if anybody's tuning in a little bit late. The one that really matters is this. It's from Alex Crook. I was under the impression last week that Antony would only be a target if Ronaldo was to leave the club. That may be the case, but I've also had some information from a very reliable source that Manchester United are very much looking to bring Antony in. So look, whatever happens with Ronaldo, I want him to stay, but whatever happens with Ronaldo, we've got to get Antony in. Why not loan Antony and buy De Jong, says Milan. I don't think Ajax are in the habit of loaning out £60 million players who are your best players. That would be like Barcelona wanting Sancho, and we can't sort a deal out, so we loan him. That's just not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So I'm excited about this. Let's just wait and see what happens with it. The encouraging thing is we've been ahead of the game again. We were speaking about this morning. Now by lunchtime, United are negotiating with Ajax. Still a lot of work to be done, but let's see what happens. And maybe, as somebody said last night, Ethan Laird could be a useful little ploy in this. Do you think Van der Beek should start the next game, says Rohit? Well, I'm going to do a preview for the next game, probably put it up tomorrow or Friday. And yes, 100% Van der Beek should start that game. But there has been some updates on De Jong. We've actually got an interview Adam's done again. I mean, obviously the James Ducker interview last night was very, very good. He's got an interview with Melissa Reddy from Sky Sports, who I think is their chief correspondent now for football news. So that's coming out at about 5 o'clock today, so watch out for that. But interesting story coming out from De Jong, not from De Jong personally, but from Sport, which is a Barcelona outlet, that De Jong doesn't like the way Manchester United is run and doesn't like Manchester. I mean, it's not like he's got to live here, is it? I mean, I don't really get what the point of that article is. Are they purposely trying to promote a Chelsea move? Because Barcelona need to sell Frankie Dion. They need to sell Frankie Dion. So why would you put stories out there about him not liking the city that you're trying to sell him to? It doesn't benefit Barcelona to put stories out about Frankie Dion not liking Manchester and not liking the way the club's run. I mean, to be honest with you, that's a big tick in the box if he doesn't like how the club's run, because I think we all agree with that. But obviously it won't be taken very well by Manchester United fans, especially those fans who live in Manchester, that a prospective signing doesn't like your city. You know, I mean, I've been to Manchester many times. It's a cracking city, but the people who live there are very proud, and it won't go down well with them if they're hearing stories about Frankie Dion doesn't like Manchester, because, you know, it's like someone coming in your house and saying this is a shithole, isn't it? So I don't know why those stories are coming out, and to be honest with you, I don't think they're true. But look, I found it quite funny because it's almost like they're trying to promote this Chelsea move. Hi Mark, I've seen a lot of negativity about you on Twitter. I just want to say thanks for making every day less boring. Everyone here loves the show, says Kane. Have we worked out what Eric Ten Hag was shouting? I heard Bayern, not Charlie, for the pass back. He did, says Slow Sports News. Is it true that Frankie Dion played as a centre-back last night for Barca? So 3 questions to answer there. First of all, Jacob, he came on as a sub. And he played at centre-back and then he moved into the midfield. It was their first pre-season game, so I wouldn't read too much into it. But they probably are trying to force him out, subtly, yes. I know Slow Sports News. So there was a lot of experts on Twitter last night telling everybody that Ten Hag shouted, and I think he said, "What the F are you doing?" to Charlie Savage, because he said Charlie. He didn't say Charlie. He was shouting at David De Gea for hitting a long ball, because he doesn't call Charlie Savage Charlie, he calls him Sav. So why would he go Charlie when it's Sav? So especially on a football game, you're going to use the nickname, you're not going to use the full name. So he wasn't shouting at Charlie Savage, and it was illogical to shout to Charlie Savage because it was a long ball by De Gea when he could have just passed it to the right back, and he should have just passed it to the right back. So he wasn't having a pop at him. As for the negativity on Twitter, I mean, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm a big fan of fan opinion. That's why I do this. I don't agree with Pogba being booed. I don't agree with Maguire being booed. But I've got no problem with fans who do it, because it's up to them to voice their opinion, and surely that's what society should be. And then if people disagree with it, they can boo those people back if they don't like it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell people what they can and can't do. But certain people on Twitter do want to do that. Apparently they're super fans, and I think they're writing a book collectively telling us how to be a fan. From what I can gather, basically you just have to do what they think, which is just dictatorship, which none of us on here believe in. And the hilarious thing is that some of these people who, as I said last night, are trying to blame me for Australians booing Harry Maguire. I've never bloody been to Australia, and I don't agree with booing any player. But you know what? I've got amazing powers. I think I'm going to be a character on the next Marvel series. But I've got no idea why it's my fault. Suffice to say, I have said I don't want Maguire to be captain, and I did say he was shit last year. But is that not the truth? I don't know. Apparently that causes people to boo people. Well, maybe he was crap last year. Maybe he shouldn't be captain. Maybe that's just an opinion, and if you disagree with it, you disagree with it. But a lot of these people, the hilarious thing is, I've had people messaging me saying, you know, this person saying this about you. Have you seen what they said about Pogba? They were applauding the booing. They were saying, fuck Pogba and this, that and the other. Well, look, if you want to boo Pogba and you don't like Pogba, that's fine. But don't start telling United fans they can't, you know, critique Maguire when they're critiquing Pogba. Like, live and let live. Just let everyone do their own thing. Also, just reminds me though, big thing. I just want to let people know. Let me get this up here. So, look, I think when you do these sort of things, you have to not hide it. And I did do a tweet. I did do a bet with Craig from Anfield Agenda last year that we would finish above Liverpool. Now, before you ridicule me, Beth bet that we were going to win the league. She didn't put any money on it, thank God. But she said we were going to win the league. There was a lot of positivity last year. We knew the midfield was a risk, but we decided to ignore it, as did Solskjaer, and he paid the price. So, look, somebody even said on Twitter today you should have to pay double because you were nowhere near Liverpool. But I did bet Anfield Agenda, Craig, that we would finish above Liverpool last season, and it has been time to pay up today. Some of you might know him, Mac on Twitter at LDM Jones. Look, lifelong Reds, fantastic guy. Really old school Man United fan as well, and somebody who was always really good to us on the United stand and really good to me. And it was devastating when he told me that he had terminal cancer at the start of the year, and obviously he's no longer with us anymore. But his friends and family have arranged a fundraising page. And I was thinking there was a few charities I wanted to pay the £500 to, but you know, sometimes charity begins at home, doesn't it? And this is a charity that's raising money for Macmillan, who are obviously this charity that helps out with people who are suffering with cancer and families as well. And I thought, you know what, Man United fan, charity, cancer, we're all impacted by that. So I've paid the money to that. They're very close to hitting 50,000. I think they're at 3-4 grand away. If you want to contribute to that, then it's on my Twitter feed. You'll find it on there, and I'm sure we can get the link in the video description as well. So, but also just to say, you know, some people do these bets. I remember doing one with a certain Arsenal channel a few years ago, and they never bloody did. They never paid up their debts. And I think if you are gonna bet with people publicly, then you publicly have to show that you've paid the bets. So, which reminds me, I owe Paul Ince 500 quid as well. I think he'll forget. He's too busy with bloody Reading at the moment. But I actually need to speak to Ince about getting him on the show. Thomas, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining. Hi, Mark. Do you think there is a deadline for De Jong? We originally had a deadline for him. There is no deadline for Frankie Dion. It's a very good question, and thanks for all the love in the chat. You know what? I think some of you will know Mac from Twitter. He was also, you know what? He was sound guy, always had an opinion. I think his last tweet, I mean, you'd have to check it yourselves, but I think his last tweet was saying that Maguire shouldn't be captain. So, you know, it's just, I think that probably encapsulates everything perfectly, because he was a lifelong Reds. He used to get really good information from people close to the club, and his last tweet, and his account was about football really, was that he was really unhappy with the players and Maguire shouldn't be captain this year. And yet people are going to try and say that's not being a real fan. he was a fantastic United fan. So just people just get hot under the collar and trying to tell people what to think. And life is so fucking short. It is. You never know what's coming tomorrow. Don't spend your time getting angry about people having a different opinion to you. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, there is no deadline for Frankie Dion. That's maybe in the past people thought there was, but there's no deadline for Frankie Dion. We will, if Erik ten Hag can get him, he'll wait until the last hour of the transfer deadline day, which is interesting. It's a long way off the transfer deadline day, but it's actually Thursday, September the 1st, I believe. We're actually playing a game that night. So we normally have a transfer deadline day show. We're playing a match that night. I mean, that would be very interesting if United are still trying to buy players, won't it? Kai, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Torres says the price is 80 million euros minimum for Antony. Oh, yeah, because you know, don't you? You know. I think it's been put back a day, random IT guy. I think it's been put back to the 1st. You might be right about the 31st, but I think it's the 1st. Because I'm sure somebody said that. But there's games on the 1st. There's a full Premier League programme. It's midweek. Wednesday the 31st is a load of Premier League games, and we're playing on Thursday the 1st. So look, the deadline, like Kieran says, the deadline for Dion could be 2027. We buy nobody for the midfield until Dion. If he's 42, we get Dion. You've been sacked, Eric, 12 years ago. Yeah, we will see. We'll see what happens on that. But yeah, I think with Frankie Dion, just very, very quickly on Frankie Dion, because I know Melissa from Sky talks about him on the video we've got coming out at 5. But deadlines, when's it going to happen? How long's a piece of string? And I mean that because I haven't even got any string to measure. And also, Barcelona are completely not interested in De Jong at the moment. They're absolutely fighting tooth and nail to try and take another player that's looking like he's going to go somewhere else. And I'm sure they'll probably end up getting Koundé. How they're doing it, where they're getting the money from, God knows. I spoke to a Barcelona fan a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying, look, we're getting all these financial levers, but it's not money for free. We're giving up things for it. We're giving percentages up here, there, and everywhere. I mean, it could bite us in the arse if they're terrified that they're gonna. Basically, what was said to me is that if look at some of the signings we've made: Ousmane Dembele, 135 million; Coutinho, over 100 million; Griezmann, over 100 million. Like, just one or two of these new signings flop, and we're financially screwed. And I said, nah, you'll always find a way out, because you found a way out of this situation, and God knows how. But Barcelona are 100% focused on Koundé at the moment, so there's nothing happening with John. Right back, Leon, Malo Gusto, 15 to 20 million. Please watch, says Adam. What, me watch him? I'm not director of football, pal, so it won't matter if I look at him at all. But look, I mean, you do remind me of that story about that Klaus player. Told you we were never in for him. I think he's signed for Marseille now, hasn't he? Apparently, Mukiele is going to PSG as well. I don't know whether anyone saw that today, but apparently Mukiele is going to PSG. So, does that make Hakimi available? Be very expensive, but we will see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. Anyway, look, I wasn't ever going to be live long today. I just wanted to bring you the update on Antony, which is a good update. I will be back with you at 8 o'clock tonight. Thanks everybody who has become a member and who is watching the show. Make sure you smash a like on the video as well. I'm very, very pleased with what's happening with the Antony story, and I'm very, very confident that the Antony deal will... Well, I'm not very confident it's going to happen. I'm 50-50, but I'm very confident that we're actually negotiating. I think there was a theory that we'd backed off from the Antony deal and we weren't doing anything about it. I think we can 100% guarantee that we are negotiating. It's just in the hands of Murta and Arnold again to see if they'll get the deal done. So keep your eye on that. Players pushing for the move. Ten Hag's pushing for the move. Can the United negotiators get a deal done? Let's wait and see. I am going to be playing on Twitch because yesterday was an amazing day, so I've got to keep the buzz going. I've got the cherry bomb in the fridge. If you know, you know. I will be on Twitch at about 3:10 today, maybe 3:15 on Twitch, Goldbridge TV. I'll tweet it. Please, if you're feeling generous, do gift what you can to the charity that I've put up on my Twitter. I'll retweet it again now so you know where it is. In fact, let me just do it now, just so you know where it is. It's on Twitter. Let me just do... Actually, I know what I'll do. I will retweet it And I'm also a genius because I'm going to put it into the live chat right now. Charity link. And has it shortened it? Yes, it has. And I'm going to pin it. Replace pinned message. So yes, that's where we've given the money to. And if any of you want to do it as well for Mac, lifelong Red. And unfortunately, we lost him earlier on in the year. And they're trying to raise 50,000. So if you can donate anything, it'd be fantastic. And really appreciate that. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. I'm back at 8 o'clock, but remember we've got a video coming out at 5 o'clock. We've got another interview with one of the journalists out in Australia. Adam's got another one, talking to Melissa Reddy of Sky Sports, and she does talk about Dion. I need to go and watch it myself before we edit it. So we'll get that up for you about 5 o'clock, and I'll be on Twitch in about half an hour's time. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll speak to you later. Thank you. And Anarug says, congratulations on being the talk of the town. Haters can swivel on the Bangkok whatever cup. You know, I'm just a fan like you lot. The fact that people think I'm a voice for the fans is just ridiculous. You know, I think anybody who actually watched the shows knows that I get ridiculed as much as I get listened to, and that's the way it's always been. It's a community. Speak to you in a bit.